recent profound journey around Maa Narmada, I met and interacted with many incredible people. Some of these encounters were brief, while others became lengthy conversations which turned into satsangas. The words we shared were always profound and meaningful. Many of those people are subscribers to this channel, and I wanted to pay tribute to each and every one of them by featuring them in this video. However, there are so many wonderful people who touched my life that this video only features those who I met on the south bank of Maa Narmada. In the next video, I will feature those who I met on the north side. In addition, I wanted to share with you some of the transformational lessons that I learned on this pilgrimage. Many of these lessons were deeply spiritual, while others were of a more practical nature. Either way, they have changed my life dramatically.
Narmade Har, Narmade Har, Narmade Har.
When I set off on my journey from Amarkantak, I had a definite goal in mind. My plan was to walk for a week and then take one rest day before carrying on again. And I planned to do this throughout my parikrama, thereby completing my journey in exactly 5 months. But the more in touch I became with Maa Narmada, and the more I surrendered to her will, the more I found myself letting go, until eventually I was no longer concerned about time, distances covered, and or places reached. This immediately introduced a lot more freedom into my life, which became extremely liberating. This newfound freedom then allowed me to practice walking in the presence of God with more ease, and as a result, my pilgrimage became much more meditative. I was not only seeing the divinity in every smile and gesture of the people, but now seeing the divinity in every plant, tree, bush, and flower. And I was also able to see the divinity and beauty in the stones and in the rocks as well. The further I walked, the richer, more colorful, and more vibrant became the chaotic diversity that permeates every aspect of Indian life. And this resulted in unending, ceaseless amazement, wonder, and awe. parikrama, I was mostly alone, but I was never lonely, as I allowed the stillness to penetrate into the core of my being. This silence facilitated a process of deep purification, as I found myself dealing with grief, anger, resentment, feelings of self-worth, sadness, guilt, shame, rejection, and fear. The more I dealt with these issues, the lighter I began to feel, until eventually I felt in a state of flow, which mirrored that of Maa Narmada. As I continued on my journey and walked in a state of flow, the less separation I felt. I began to feel more whole and more complete, and my true identity started shining forth. The glimpses of my true nature and the realization of my true self started to become as clear as a still pond on a full moon night. The process of purification and penance is something that takes time and requires gentle patience and tolerance. But the simplicity that comes with walking the Narmada Parikrama made me humble and helped me to shed the cloaks of ego that I have so often worn to keep me warm in the past. The more I surrendered unconditionally to Maa Narmada, the more faith and trust I developed in her and in the universal Supreme Being. As a result of this deep faith and trust, I felt more guided, comforted, and protected, and I wanted for nothing. By allowing every situation, circumstance, and experience to come into my life without resistance, the more joyful, open, content, and at peace I became. The kindness and selflessness that I experienced around the banks of Maa Narmada filled my heart with gratitude and appreciation. And by the time I completed my pilgrimage, I felt free, liberated, and reborn. And that lightness of being has continued to stay with me. But for this Walking Sadhu, there is more work to be done. So I will start the second round of my Narmada Parikrama in a few months' time.
Narmade Har. Narmade Har.